Like this video? Why not subscribe? Today on MH News, we're going behind the scenes of a live concert with our good friend and pro audio engineer, Dave Walters from Empty Pocket Studios. Welcome to MH News, everyone. I'm your host, Matt Haslam, and as always, if you like this video, like and subscribe to our channel and go to the blog post link in the description below to find out more information on this episode and many more other episodes we have teaching you the how-to in the entertainment industry. Now today, like I said, we have a special guest on our show. His name is Dave Walters, and before he started his company, Empty Pocket Studios, he worked for companies such as Altman Brothers, which you may or may not have heard of, but they are the world's largest sound company. He also worked for world-famous bands on tour, such as Bon Jovi. Yeah, so this guy knows his stuff, and that's exactly why we have him on the show today. So I very much encourage before this episode really begins to get a notepad, grab a pen, and write down as much as you possibly can. This guy knows his stuff, and he is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in the sound company world. He is willing to share almost anything that you ask him. He'll answer, and he'll share as much as he possibly knows on the topic. So he's definitely a mind to pick his brain a little bit, and I'm so lucky that we were able to do that on this episode. Now, to do this episode, we went out to a local venue in Pine Grove, Pennsylvania, where Dave was mixing for a band named Trial Under Fire. Now, Trial Under Fire is a really great band, and if you ever had the chance, go check them out. But he was mixing for Trial Under Fire, and he was mixing in stereo, so he's going to explain the ins and the outs of the sound system, how he built that sound system, and how it all works, and my favorite part is how it's different from your home stereo system. Because a lot of people in the entertainment industry, and especially the sound world, they think they can just take the stereo system in their home and take it outside and it'll work for a block party, and it simply won't. He's going to explain more about that in the episode, so grab a notepad and a pen and take as many notes as you possibly can. Here is Dave Walters at the event of Trial Under Fire.
The group we're working with is Trial Under Fire tonight. We work with every band. They hire us to come out, do their venues, and we do their mixing, and then sometimes we work with them more than once, sometimes we work with them just once if they're in the area. This is an electronic drum set. It's not the percussion you normally see, so it gives a little bit of a different sound, but it's the same sound. It's pretty cool. It's cool, new stuff. And over here we have the lead guitar player's rack. Everybody's playing in stereo tonight. The drums are mixed in stereo. When he goes across the drums, when he's playing, it will come across the sound system in stereo. Same way with the guitar player, he's playing in stereo as well. When he plays, it goes to stereo back and forth, just like you listen to it in a recording. And this is a new system, and the entire system will play in stereo. Our entire show is designed to be mixed in stereo if the band is producing stereo. What I'm doing is I'm testing how far the sound is traveling before it degrades. So far, from where my first reading was to here, it degraded 2 dB. Now I'm going to try it from back there. If it doesn't degrade any more than 40%, it's actually really pushing power. The difference is that wall is there, so it's not going to travel too far beyond, but the ability to cover a farther distance is what outside shows are looking for larger amounts of people. This is a brand new system. We've only had it out once before, but not outside. So what we're trying to do is trying to gauge how much more power we would need to cover a larger area. Went from 96 dB from here to 102 dB 50 feet away, so that's a pretty good throw. That's not bad. We could use a little more power, but we have it built into the system, and what we do is we keep the power low so we keep the clarity up. The harder we press our amplifiers to their top end limit, the less clearer it's going to be and the less enjoyable it will be. So this is just a check for the future to see if we need to add more amplifiers and more speakers compared to what we have on each amp. One of the other things tell the difference between a good system and a bad system. You can have a system that's going to put out a lot of sound, but what you want to do is put out sound clearly. With this wall here, if you look and see that it's a smooth wall, you're going to get reflection back from all kinds of sound, especially the top end like the snare and cymbals. If you're standing in the middle between the speaker stack and this wall, and you can actually hear the echo coming off the wall to bounce back, that's a clean mix. That's a good sounding system. If it just sounds blah and you don't hear that, that's not a very good system. You're working your system entirely too hard, and it's not very good sound, or it's not good for the system, or both. So you want to look out for that as well with reflections, and that'll also gauge your clarity of your sound. This is a dB meter. What we do is we'll test the sound on each side of the stack to make sure that they're producing equally. We can change that either in the mixing system, or we can change it on the amplifiers. So when we're doing a sound check or play the first and second song, I will equalize the stacks to make sure that they're putting out the same to keep the system in balance. You really need to do that when you're mixing stereo, not so much as a mono. It's very important. This is just a cheap one, about 40 bucks, but they'll sell them, they'll go up to $200 for really good ones, but we don't need nothing because we're not in arena hall. We generally do outdoor shows, so you don't have any reflection to worry about. Now what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the difference between your home stereo and a professional sound system. In this box we have crossover built in, which allows our frequencies for the 15s to be sent, and then the right frequencies for the horns, also the right frequencies for the super tweets. Each mid cabinet or top box has a crossover built into it. Now when we're mixing live, we're sending everything out to these two connections left and right for our stereo mix. They come in to this crossover, and that separates for our subs to our mids. We mix from about 68 hertz up to 150 hertz on our subs, 100 hertz up to 20 kilohertz on our mids and tops and super tweets. And what that does is sends it out to each individual amps. This amp here works the top boxes, and this amp works the big bottom boxes. This is pushing 3,000 watts, and this is pushing 1,500 watts. And when you have a home stereo, you're pushing everything into one box, and you're not getting a lot of power, and you're getting all your bottom end and your mids together, and then you're getting a horn, which gives you your high ends, keyboard sounds, lead guitar, top end sounds, stuff like that. It's a good sound. It does sound good. Bose really worked it out well, that it sounds awesome the way they built and designed their boxes. However, it's not practical in a sense like this when you're pushing a lot more power, a lot louder. You cannot get to clarity without running crossovers in your system. You could just feel the bottom end perfectly. The top end, I mean, when you're listening to it and it's mixed properly, you won't have that push on your forehead, you won't hear that twinge in your ear. That's what crossovers do for you. They allow you to properly set the frequencies apart and allow them to travel together out to different cabinets and mixed in the air. And when it's mixed properly, you could take it up to 120 dB as we just did today, 20 yards, 25 yards from the speakers, and you can't even tell it's 120 dB. It just feels perfect. You can feel it through your body, you can hear it perfectly, and you can still talk to someone standing next to you. Big difference between a home stereo and a professional system with crossovers. That's the best way to explain that. So, you'll look at a crowd when you're mixing sound. You'll walk through a crowd, and you'll see if they enjoy it. You can see the expressions on their face. This gentleman out here has a smile on his face. He's in his 50s. He's enjoying it. He didn't grow up with this music, but he's enjoying it. If it didn't sound good, he wouldn't be smiling. The young child over there is smiling. Everybody is smiling and laughing. They're talking. They can hear it perfectly clear, and it's still loud. And it's not interfering with their conversations. They're not holding their ears. They're not squinting with their eyes like this. There's a sign that it's a bad mix. And that is the big difference in proper use of crossovers. Awesome difference. Small band who doesn't have a big budget, don't have to go out and spend $1,000 for a crossover, a computerized digital one. You can get a good one for $100. You can get cheaper amps. You don't need to pay $800 for an amp. You could pay $300, $400 for an amp, and you can still have a good small club system. You don't need to spend a ton of money for a smaller system, but I'll tell you what, it sounds awesome in your house. Awesome. So, can't beat crossovers. I personally like PV amplifiers. They have a lot of built-in protection against shorts. They weigh 7 pounds instead of 70 pounds. They're very close to the output and quality of a Crown Royal. Crown bought out Royal many years ago and adopted their line. Crown is a very good amp, 2400s. They draw about 20 amps. This whole amp rack draws 20 amps. So I'm able to put out nearly as much with an amp rack that weighs about 20% of the weight. It's a cost-effective way to transport. Also to cut down power when you get into places similar to this that don't have a patch panel where you're hooking into actual outlets. The patch panel we hook in with 220 volts. We require 30 amps per amp on the Crown 3000 series. This 3000 series PV amp only requires 12. So it's a big difference in power consumption for the same output and similar to the same amount of money. A lot of the different cabling we use is speak-on cables. Our amps are protected against shorts. Speak-on cables, when you twist them apart, pull that right out. There's no way you can short this out. And it allows you to have a safer thing. If you had an amp that didn't have short protection, and that pulled out and hit a piece of metal, it would short out the amp and take out that side of the amp, which requires you to send it back and have it fixed. Also, they carry more power. When your home stereo might put out 800 watts to 1,000 watts, we're putting out 3,000 to 10,000 watts through one cable. We're actually going up into 200 volts at some times, depending on our drive, where your home stereo system's only doing 48. It's a lot safer in the long run if something should come loose.
Now I know what you're saying. Now that we've heard about the professional sound system that Dave built for his shows and how to build your own, what are the results of this actual sound system? What does it actually sound like? But before we get to that, I like to just note and point out the fact that Dave, in this interview, one of my favorite parts of the whole interview was that Dave actually said, you don't need these $1,000 crossovers. You don't need these $2,000, $3,000 PV amplifiers. What you need is a professional system. And professional systems can start at $100 crossovers or $300 amplifiers. Now, he uses this $1,000 crossover and he uses $2,000, $3,000 amplifiers. But depending on the size of the venue that you're playing, depends on what equipment you need. So check out the equipment and check out exactly what size venue you have. And I very much highly suggest bringing in someone as a consultant like Dave to tell you exactly what you need for the venues that you're playing. And if you're a band out there that you're looking for a sound company, then definitely it's easier to go with a sound company than it is to go out and buy all this yourself, because the sound company is going to have experts that work for them that know their stuff. And so it's a lot easier than going out and spend all this money and maybe even wasting money on stuff that you don't even need and that you think is professional, but it's really not going to stand the size venues that you're trying to play at. So now that we've heard about the sound system itself, what are the actual results of the sound system? What does it actually sound like? What you're about to hear is the raw sound coming out of the camera and from our microphones that day. This is exactly what the audience heard. Hope you enjoy. So before we close here today, I'd just like to say thank you to Dave Walters and everyone at Empty Pocket Studios. Thanks for sharing your vast knowledge all night long. The show lasted about 3 or 4 hours, and we only fit about 15 minutes of that show into today's episode, so there's definitely more covered than what we can possibly fit into a short little episode here for MH News. But all night long, we were asking him so many questions, and so thank you for sharing with not just me, but everyone in the MH News audience. Thanks for being an incredible guy, by the way. Dave has this wonderful personality that is very rare to see in the audio industry nowadays, and he's willing to share his knowledge and teach you, and not just for that event. If you're working with him, he's willing to teach you as much as he possibly can. So thank you for being an incredible person. Also, thank you to Trial Under Fire Band, and if you ever have the chance, go check them out at trialunderfire.com. If you guys ever come out with a CD, let me know. But thank you for playing amazing music, and Empty Pocket Studios, go check them out at emptypocketstudios.com. And thank you again for being incredible people, letting us film there all day. And if you want more information on us, you can like and subscribe to our channel and check us out at mhnews.info for episodes every Monday and Thursday. Thanks for joining us this week, and see us next time. Bye. Next question. How long did it take you to develop your personal style? Forever. It's a work in progress still. You never really get that personal. There's no like point where you get to and say, you know what, this is my personal style, this is what I'm going to work with.